There's a lot of reasons to open a U.S. company, whether you want to get more U.S. clients, have access to U.S. banking system, or maybe use U.S. technology tools like Facebook or Google to better grow your business. There's a lot of reasons to open a U.S. company. But now it's complicated. What kind of company should you open? Should you open an LLC or a corporation? Well, I'm a U.S. CPA. I've been helping non-residents figure out what kind of companies to open, how to get those companies open, getting the numbers they need quickly, and getting bank accounts and operating and then filing taxes correctly for a lot of years, for many, many years. And on this channel, I talk about this all the time. And in this video specifically, I want to go over when is an LLC the best option and when is a corporation the best option. It's a video I've done in different instances a number of times on the channel, but I want to explain kind of in this video the best reason or the most common reason you need an LLC and the most common use cases for an LLC and the most common use cases for a corporation, and then what you need once you open those entities in order to be fully legal compliant and fully tax compliant to avoid any issues with your business after you get going. So as I said, I'm a CPA in the US and I work mostly with non-residents, people outside of the US who want to use US entities. And it's perfectly possible if you're watching this video from Zimbabwe, if you're watching it from Argentina, you can open a US company and US bank accounts without traveling to the US. And that's what we help our clients do. And we also help them make sure that they open the right type of company. And that's, I work personally with all my clients. I want to start by talking about the default tax treatment. Then I'm going to go into some examples and best use cases, and then I'm going to go into what's need to be required to keep them legally going all the time. So the most common type of entity that most people are going to open is an LLC, a limited liability company in the United States. There's 50 different states that we have in the United States, and almost all of them have their own version of the LLC. When you're watching videos online, the most common states that people choose are Wyoming or Delaware, or in Latin America, a lot of people choose Florida, and there's different reasons for choosing different states. But ultimately, from a tax perspective, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if you open your LLC in Texas, or in Florida, or in Georgia, or in Mississippi. It really doesn't make a difference because it goes by the state federal taxation, and then it goes to the state taxation. And ultimately, if you operate your LLC the right way, you won't have to pay taxes. Now let me explain how that works. My name is James. I live in the United States. If I have an LLC, if I open an LLC in whichever state, the LLC doesn't pay tax. James pays tax on the profits. If I open an LLC, which I have in other videos, you can click this video and see how I open an LLC for free. You can see me open an LLC, and then I'll go get a bank account, and then I invoice clients. I make money. Let's say I make $100,000. I have an awesome year teaching people how to do their accounting. I personally am going to pay tax on that income. James Baker, living in the US. Now, the twist is, if you are a foreign person and you're not in the US, you wouldn't pay US taxes. And just having this LLC and these US bank accounts doesn't cause you to actually pay income taxes. Now, you have to do it the right way. You have to do your corporate compliance, your state compliance, your federal IRS compliance. It's not that complicated, and I'll go over what you need to do in this video. But the main concept is that if you're delivering the service outside the US, you don't have a fixed place of business in the US, you don't have employees in the US. You can have contractors, but you need good contractor agreements, and you don't perform services within physically in the US, like you don't fly here to install stuff, then you generally won't have to pay taxes in the United States. So what are the most common use cases for the limited liability company? The first one is service businesses. So if you are an IT worker, a software guy, a consultant of any kind, having an LLC and being a non-resident is amazing because you can actually operate this company, make as much money as you want, and not pay any income taxes in the United States. Now, I don't know what you have to do in your home country, depending on where your residency is, but it creates a great opportunity. You wouldn't have any double taxation because there's no tax in the US. You just have single level taxation based on where your residency is in the world. Many of my clients travel around, they go to different places, they say the company is managed by someone else. It's really great, and they're able to use these LLCs and pay no taxes and get more clients, make more money with pretty small annual maintenance costs that if you work with me, we cover all of this for you. So the LLC is great for consultants. It can be good for e-commerce businesses, especially if you're doing drop shipping or if you're manufacturing your own stuff locally and you're shipping it out. Most people are doing some kind of drop shipping, and I have another video that I did a couple weeks ago ranking the risk of being subject to taxes in the US based on your style of business. I thought it was a really clever video. I go over like 30 different scenarios and I rate the risk. Ultimately, if you're doing everything remotely, it's like a logistics business. You're managing from abroad, and it would not be subject to U.S. income taxes on an e-commerce business. Typically, that's how people are managing it. The last one would be investors, if you're investing in the stock market. Now, there are also caveats for that, and after this video, I'm going to film a video about how to structure your investments, how to invest in the U.S. stock market through U.S. companies and pay no taxes. And I'm going to go through that in the next video. So make sure you like and subscribe so you'll be attuned to that and you get that next video when it comes out. The most common use cases for the LLC. If you have an LLC and you're the only owner, annually you have to file a pro forma 1120 with a 5472 to just show how much you transacted with the LLC personally. A silly filing, but it's required. And if there's more than one owner of the LLC, you have to do a form 1065 by March 15th, and that reports all of the activity of the business. And there's a specific way we do that. It's a little more complicated. You generally going to work with an accountant for that form. The 5472 you can fax, but generally the LLC is the most common vehicle to open for people. It's also a common type of company to own real estate directly, not for owning and operating, but for holding title to real estate. It's great because you can open LLCs quick and easy. And I have more real estate videos as well. But that's like the LLC and how the LLC works. Let's talk about the corporation. Now, a C corporation is a U.S. person that pays tax on its income. It's more formal, there's more requirements, and there's more things you have to do to keep a C Corp going. When you register a C Corporation, you have to issue shares, you have to write bylaws, you generally are going to appoint directors, your officers, and that's all going to be done on your corporate setup, all the governments, the bylaws, and the minutes and other appointment documents. That's best done with an attorney, but there's some, with our clients, we give template documents that'll work fine for most people. But C Corps are most common used for the following three types of businesses. First is if you're going to open a store in person. When there's a big company in the UK, for example, that sell a shoe store and they want to come to the US and open shoe stores, they're going to open a corporation to run the shoe store, have the employees, rent the office space, get the licenses, and do everything in person. So for in-person businesses owned by foreign people, generally they're going to use a C corporation because it makes the filing simpler, it makes the reporting simpler, and it doesn't bring them personally into taxes or having to deal with complicated withholding. The federal corporate income tax rate is 21%, and there are state taxes depending on what state you're dealing with. There's usually a lot of exemptions. It's around 5% depending on what state you're in. And this is where you're going to be operating and also where the LLC is registered. If you're registered in Florida, you get a $50,000 exemption, but after that $50,000, any income above that is taxed at I think 5.5%. Did not check. You can comment below if you are really on board, but there is a tax. So the most common example is when you have a big company opening a subsidiary in the US and they want to clear boundaries of this company pays tax on this stuff here, this company in the UK pays tax here, and it's for a subsidiary company that's going to actually have employees and do business in the US. The second one is when you have real estate investments. Now there's a lot of complicated ways to own real estate in the US and operate it. Almost always recommend using a corporation, top-level corp with LLCs that own the real estate. So you file one corporate tax return where you report all the income and all the expenses, and then you deal with how much you're going to send out in dividends, how much you're going to pay yourself for managing it. And it's easier through one tax return. So generally, if you're a foreign person, you're investing in U.S. real estate, we're going to use a corporation in that example. And then the last example is if you're going to be opening a public company, getting funding, having a big business with U.S. partners and foreign partners, and you have just this big complex operation with mixed nationalities of partners, you might want to use a corporation, or it might be something you consider. Obviously, really the last three examples, you're going to need some on-site in the U.S. accounting and tax support. That's what we do. I'm not saying you have to work with us. There's a lot of companies that do it. If you're opening a corp, it's a little easier, but this is definitely something we can help with. And generally, if you're opening a corp, you're going to have some kind of counsel or, accountants working with you to make sure you do all of the compliance correctly, because you are, in this example, a U.S. taxpayer. Now, I didn't mention it before, but when you do open the LLC, you should get an operating agreement. You should sign it. It should indicate how you're operating your business and how you're going to manage the business. It's a really simple document, especially if you're the only owner, but it's important. On here, you can indicate what happens if you get hit by a bus and die. Who's the manager of the company? We usually like to open manager-managed companies. If you're the owner of the LLC or the member, we want to appoint yourself as the manager so it's separate. You can always change it. It's more flexible. But those are kind of the common use cases. I open up way more LLCs than corporations, but ultimately when we open up a corporation, it's more involved and there's more reporting that's required. It's more complicated, but it's necessary in these, most notably these three instances. It's really all in-person businesses, it's real estate investments in the U.S. with foreign owners, and complex situations where you have funding, where you have U.S. and foreign owners. When you need, if you want to make a publicly traded company, a corporation has shares and an LLC has membership interest. So those are the differences really between them. Hopefully this clears it up. For 95% of you guys out there, if you're doing some kind of consulting or e-commerce, you're going to want a simple LLC. We usually open Wyoming LLCs. Delaware's fine, whatever, Florida, Texas, whatever. They're all basically the same thing. If you have a big business, you should obviously get professional advice. If you're just starting, watch my How to Open an LLC for Free video. But if you are already doing business, you're like, James, I never even knew I could have an LLC and pay no taxes. You can schedule a free call with my team, jamesbakercpa.com/schedule. I love to explore and explain how we help our clients structure the companies the right way, get them open quickly, get bank accounts without traveling, and just do everything the right way and the efficient way at a really competitive price. So thanks for watching the video. Comment if I missed anything or if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next one.